Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. A little bit of a different look here for the next month or so as we are getting you into nice Old Republic mode, doing some KOTOR coverage as talked about. Pete Constore got married last week, so congrats to Pete. He will not be with us this week. Nick Fry tickles tobacco, but as I mentioned, we do have two great contributors to the Sky Guys joining the crew for this mission. First up here, the trusty co-pilot of this process, the great Max Rowers with us. Max, how are you?
Good to be back, Mike. Playing one of my all-time favorite games for the first time in probably like a decade. So nice to be here with everyone.
Yeah, long-time listeners to the podcast know Max Roberts has always been the KOTOR advocate, so now he is getting his wish to be on the KOTOR coverage. Yep.
I'm excited, and it's like I said, I haven't played this game since I was like a teenager. So it's nice to get a refresher, and it's nice to get to experience this game with all of our listeners and with my fellow co-hosts.
Yep. Also with us today, one of the great video contributors of this podcast. He is the second in command for the Black Vulkars. Nick D'Alessio is here. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. I was wondering what I was going to be since I committed to the Sith playthrough run, so Black Vulkars, that makes sense. Yeah. I've also haven't played this game in a really long time, and playing it again, I'm just remembering how much I love it. And I'm glad we're finally doing this segment. We've been talking about it for so long, so I'm glad it's finally happening.
Yeah, as I mentioned last week here, we're going to be covering this game over the series of 5 weeks. So we're playing through the game at different points. So if you're playing along for the first time, I will give you at the top here. I'm going to give you our playthrough schedule. So today we are starting out, just so Max can verify this. We started out here. We played the beginning of the game, and we got off of Terrace. That's how far we got for today's game.
Correct.
All right. So here is the schedule. We'll go over at the end of the podcast in case you guys missed it. But this week we're covering the events of the Endar Spire and on Terrace. Next week, Dantooine and Tatooine. Week 3, Manan and Korriban. Week 4, a very important mid-game event and Korriban Kashyyyk. Week 3, sorry. Week 5, we finish the whole thing up here. So it's a solid pace. Terrace takes a little while, but like the rest of the thing are pretty manageable chunks. You're playing along with the game.
Terrace took a little bit longer than I remembered, but I think once but it has so much to set up, which we'll get into. There's a lot of things the game has to set up for you before it finally just lets you on your own.
Yeah, absolutely here. And as you do the top here, Max Ross, let you be the Pete role today. If you want to subscribe on the Sky Guys, they can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search the Sky Guys here at podcast platform if episodes there. And if you want to take it to the KOTOR party, make sure you subscribe to get all the episodes.
Yeah, you should absolutely subscribe. It's a great podcast full of great people, really passionate about Star Wars, covering all sorts of different fun topics, brackets, video games. Occasionally, you get some great cameos. One of my colleagues, Phil Frietta, who's Nick's brother, was on this, I think, last week talking about Rogue One.
Yep.
It's always a good listen.
Yep. And Nick, people want to keep on social media. How can I do that?
Yeah, so it's going to be on most social media platforms at Sky Guys Podcast. And then if you don't want to comment on social media, but you still want to reach out somehow, go to skyguyspod@gmail, and that would be the way to reach out.
Yeah, we still don't know, Max, who claimed podcast on Gmail. We're still trying to search that one out.
Very rude of them. They should have known this was going to happen.
Yeah. And speaking of social media, go to our social media comment of the week. This is actually from the episode Phil was on that Max is referencing here, the Rogue One after Andor episode here. This is a comment from Beltira on the discussion of how Rogue One, although watching Andor. Nick Fry said that the pacing was a bit of a difference maker here. She says the first two arcs of R1 are not good. It moves so fast for plot points and motivations. Jin says F them to the rebels. Then literally they blow up her dad, and she's like, "Ooh, rebellions are dope now." And she was in prison the day before. And the whole movie is like 8 hours of time. And Nick, I do feel like the pacing of Rogue One is kind of jarring. I'm used to the deliberate build of Andor.
Though, is it jarring, or is it just like a movie pace and now it's coming off the heels of watching Andor, where you have, you know, 12 hours, 10 hours of content to flesh things out? Because I don't think I thought that initially when I watched it. I think that might be kind of a hindsight look at it.
Yeah, Max, my argument is I think that the movie pacing is right, but like rewatching it, like the work you do to get from basically like picking up Jin off the prison ship to Jeddah blowing up is like really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rogue One was also before the era of these like streaming series and episodic content really came into play and you could slow things down like in Andor. And it definitely helps with the storytelling and allowing things to breathe.
Yes.
Newbies like, oh, we got 2 hours. We got to rush to get there as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So again, you want to leave your comments on social media. We'll check them out every week here. And this is since we do call this Nick Star Wars news, Nick DeLessi will be doing the news for a few weeks. So Nick, take it away. What do we got going on here?
Yeah, it's an easy transition for everybody. Nick does the news, right? So, um, so yeah, first we got Mark Hamill has announced that he's retiring from playing Luke Skywalker, saying that he feels that Disney should focus on the future and all the new characters.
All right. So I think this is sort of something we saw coming. Max has the thumbs down here. What are you feeling?
I mean, I understand why he's no longer playing Luke Skywalker because he's old, right? Like he can only act for as long as he is physically able to. But I think that there is still so well, there's two things. One is that there, especially with Disney's like getting rid of all the legacy content, there's so much about the New Republic era that we don't know that it would be nice to flesh out. And two, I think the sequel trilogy is like so divisive that people want more of the like in between content. Like what happens in between the movies, what happens right after episode six, before episode seven. I think that would be good for kind of like continuing to re-earn the respect of the fan base, like with Andor versus like let's just jettison all that and focus on new characters.
Yeah, Nick, I think my argument has always been like I get where Hamill's coming from, where he doesn't want to do it anymore, and that's fine. He's had his time in the sun, but like there's no reason you cannot recast the character and keep the character alive. You don't need Mark Hamill to have Luke Skywalker as much as Star Wars thinks you just do.
Well, I was actually gonna say that I was gonna be like, do you think this opens the doors for like a Sebastian Stan, the thing that everybody wants, or like I mean, you could keep doing the deep fake face over, but I feel like that has to cost so much money and it just never looks fully right. Like, would people be okay with somebody else being Luke Skywalker if it's a good story? And I guess that's what we have to figure out.
Yeah, we have to figure that out here. What else we got, Nick?
So yeah, Ming-Na Wen, the actor who plays Fennec Shan in the Mandoverse, said in an interview that she will not be appearing in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, but is hoping to play the character again someday.
Again, not surprised. Boba Fett was not well received by the audience, so I can see why Disney's staying away from that.
Yeah, and I think Fennec Shan was probably one of the higher points of that. So
We'll see.
to bring it back, we'll see. Yep. So next up we got Sam Witwer, who voices Maul in the animation and is just a big part of Star Wars video games and voice acting anyway. Said in an interview that Maul Shadow Lord will see Maul reevaluate whether the creation of the Empire was a good thing.
Max, is this on your radar, the Maul Shadow Lord series that's coming next year?
I think I heard about it, but I didn't pay it much mind. But this is, I was looking it up as we're doing this. This is super exciting. Always happy to see more Darth Maul content. I think bringing them back in the Clone Wars landed very, very well. And Star Wars animated content has been very, very strong, I think. So more of that is always good.
Yeah, it's interesting, Nick, with this story on Maul because the way that I read the interview is like basically in detail saying what says like Maul sort of at this era where he believes in the mysticism and the color of the universe, and the Empire takes the color away by being like, whereas you have to stay in the lines and do it this way, whereas he likes the chivalry and the gallantry of like the dueling and stuff like that. Like that kind of goes away.
Yeah, and you know, every time they bring back Maul, my first thought is always like, uh, do we need more Maul? And then they give you more Maul, and I'm like, I'm glad we got that, you know. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
let's go to the Tony
All right,
Gilroy
let's
section. There's a
see.
lot of Tony Gilroy.
Yeah, a lot of Tony Gilroy stuff. Off the heels of Andor. So Tony Gilroy said in an interview that Clea is the real boss in the relationship between her and Luthen, and that happened from the moment that they met.
Facts.
Um, I guess that doesn't surprise me. She seems like in all the scenes that she's in, like she's sort of the one who's more in charge and pulling the strings and more authoritative. I guess like Luthen is like the technical uh leader of the funding of the rebellion.
Yep.
Um, but I was thinking of like there's the scene where they're all in the art gallery in Andor, and Luthen is showing the pieces, and she like manipulates God, what's his face? The ISB agent, and is trying to like get off
Oh,
the
Lonnie.
what?
Lonnie.
Yeah. And she's trying to get off like the recording device from that one piece. And I just, it's clear, like, even if she's not like the leader, that she's like manipulating and pulling the strings of the scene. So I think that that's foreseeable.
Yep. Nick, let's go with these last three, like kind of go rapid fire on the next two.
Yeah, sure. So, Gilroy said in a separate interview that B2 Emo was named after his son's dog, a corgi named Bimo, and he said, I want, I wanted a droid that was a dog, and I couldn't adore him more."
That settles the debate on whether B2 is a child or supposed to be a child or a dog. He's supposed to be a dog.
Yeah, I mean, we even joke around. It's kind of like a dog. I wonder if there's a little because there's a robot in Adventure Time called Bimo. I wonder if there's a little bit of that in there too. But
Oh, yeah, that's right. The calculator. Or no, the Game Boy one, not the calculator.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. We'll go rapid fire. Gilroy. Gilroy said that to Hollywood Reporter that his favorite scene in Andor is when Cyril's mom Edie comes over for dinner at Dedra's apartment. Um, I mean, there's clips of me on Sky Guy saying how much I love that scene. So I that's like my favorite scene in the show too.
Yeah, Max, Nick was on the recap of that episode, so we got to talk about that scene in great detail. It was so much fun.
That's a great scene. It's like very, very funny.
All right, and the last Gilroy item.
Yep. So last up, in that same interview, Gilroy said he's not planning to return to Star Wars anytime soon, but will never say never if the right idea comes along.
Yeah, Max, I think we heard this from Gilroy that like this is such a big part of his life that like he wants to go do other things and rephrase that as a creative. So like it sucks not get more Gilroy Star Wars soon, but like probably for the best for him. Yeah, I feel like he put so much into Andor. That's gonna be hard for him to like maintain that quality without getting himself burned out very much.
Yeah, I think he's someone who, I mean, based on, I mean, Andor had an end that I think was foreseeable, but he seems like someone who understands when that like art doesn't have to be unlimited to be good, right? You do what you're supposed to do and then you move on. You don't drag things along. And if it's going to just exhaust him or if he's not going to be doing a good idea, then it's better for him just to move on with other things with his life.
Yeah,
But he put out some great content to the interim.
yeah, he did. And Nick, and we always hold that hope that maybe in like 5 years he has another idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's also crazy like how much content he put out. Like it's really like he almost had his own trilogy of movies worth of content. So, I mean, I don't know. I if they want to give him the keys and say, "Hey, come up with something," like I'd be all for that, but I would understand why he wouldn't want to at this point also.
He produced essentially 9 movies of Star Wars content over the course of his 10 years between Rogue One and the four arcs in each season.
And some would say that it was the best content since Disney. So,
That's a whole other conversation that we
yeah,
talked.
it's another conversation, yeah.
We had that last week on the podcast. So if you guys want to check that out last week, that's the episode. But that's it for the news. That's correct, Nick.
Yes, that is it for the news this week.
All right, so let's get into Nice Go Republic. So Max, give the audience here a little quick refresher here. Like where did this game come from? Like when did it come out? Like what? Like why is it so beloved in your opinion?
Before I do that, Nick, in your background, is that a Keyblade?
Yes, there's a keyblade in the background.
Very cool. Okay. So back in 2003 was, I believe, when the first KOTOR came out.
Yeah.
BioWare, who was an RPG developer, they were principally known for some D&D based video games like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I think at that time they had released Neverwinter Nights, some very beloved role-playing games, were tasked with creating a Star Wars role-playing game. And BioWare, instead of trying to set it during the movies or in between the movies, and by the way, just to go back just one quick second, recall at this time, 2003, we had the original trilogy. We had, I guess, Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace. We did not have, and we had Clone Wars '03. We didn't have Revenge of the Sith yet.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, at the time was called the Expanded Universe. There was a lot of Expanded Universe content about what happened after episode 6. So BioWare, rather than trying to play in this universe that had been basically fleshed out,
Yeah.
decided let's set a game almost 4,000 years before episode four. There were things in the Star Wars lore in the expanded universe. I think it was like Tales of the Jedi was like the comic series that they were kind of able to base it on, but a lot of it was just like not fleshed out and pictured, and it gave them the ability basically to do whatever they wanted with the Star Wars license. And the result is one of the most highly acclaimed Star Wars stories and role playing games, just in general, of all time. The characters are all incredibly memorable. The companions are all memorable. The story is great. You get to see this era of the galaxy that we haven't, other than, I guess, KOTOR 2. And they have a Star Wars The Old Republic, which is like a sequel MMO. We haven't really seen pictured that much. Disney, when they took over, was that 2015?
I think
I
around
think.
might be like 2013-ish when they bought it because that was when they canceled Clone Wars, started developing Rebels and the sequels.
Got it. Well, in any event, early 2010s, Disney bought Star Wars, and they said everything but the movies and the Clone Wars '08 TV show was canon. Everything else is now legacy.
Yeah.
But we see the enduring popularity of Knights of the Old Republic, because a lot of the elements from the games and the characters are slowly being canonized. Like for instance, they talk about the Rakatan invaders in Andor season two.
Yeah,
That comes from Knights of the Old Republic. Also, I think there was a scene with like Revan's Sith Empire sigil on one of the things in Luthen's art gallery.
yeah.
That comes from KOTOR. You also have in episode 9, which I don't like, but they have like Revan is one of the squads of Sith lords. And so that's now canon. So I think they're like slowly bringing it over. But it's unfortunate that it's not canon because, especially replaying this game,
Great
it's
story.
just very very well done.
Yeah, and Nick, I'll add a couple of notes here, get your take on this, obviously, because like we saw last year, like 2023 in Ahsoka, that they brought some other elements in, like the HK droids came in, we got the Star Map
Yes.
were brought into canon in there, and Revan himself technically is canon because he is in the Star Wars encyclopedias. I know there was a thought that at one point George and Filoni had bring him into a Clone Wars episode on Korriban with Yoda, and then they just cut him out at that point and went a different direction. So like there are elements they are toying with bringing in. There's always been the scuttlebutt that this could get adapted in some form, but like this game I think is if you're not in the Legends universe yet, this is a fun way to get look at a fun Legend story.
Yeah, and it also like a lot of legend stuff because there's so much legend stuff and so many comic runs and stories. Like it's so hard to know where to start or to get into. KOTOR's kind of just like a nice, clean. It's so far away. It's like so long ago that it's just like a nice, clean starting point. It's a new world with a lot of the same things you're used to. And I mean, like, to the story's credit, I mean, they keep cherry picking stuff from it. So eventually, uh, at this rate, the entire thing is going to be canon. If they keep, they keep taking little plucks of it every now and then, they might as well just bring the whole thing into canon. But yeah, no, I feel like the closest thing we had to this was like maybe Shadows of the Empire as far as like a big deal of making the whole thing canon because there was a lot of stories and stuff that went along with that as well. But KOTOR feels more like just a complete story removed from the main trilogy, but familiar enough that you know what's going on in it.
Yeah, if I
And
remember,
actually,
yeah,
oh, sorry.
yeah. So also another fun thing, like another piece that was cherry picked, I just remembered, and it popped out to me, Max. I remember during the Acolyte, we had a Cellcath species member who was like, that's the water planet we're getting to in week 3. Like one of them was in the Acolyte.
I don't remember that, but I have blocked out a lot of the acolyte from.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
opposed
I it introduced a lot, and it's just the asterisk on the incorporating it into canon was there were plans to remake KOTOR
they're
in
still
the works. It's in a weird place because it was being made by this company called Aspire, who is known for like porting games over, like the Switch port that you can get it on. I think that was made by Aspire. but they're not necessarily known for developing things from scratch. And so there were some issues with them developing it. And now I think it's like it's still being made, but it's unclear what the status is. But if that is ported over, maybe that will be fully canon at that point, or KOTOR will be fully canon at that point.
Yeah, I believe the term that we would come up with this for, Nick, is development hell would be the way we would describe this where this game is. The remake.
Yeah, I need to fill the Nick role and say, I'll believe it when I see it, but otherwise it's not going to happen,
Yeah. It will not happen here right now. I am playing, so everybody knows, like, I'll give a quick rundown of how we're playing. I am actually playing that Switch port that is the Aspire made, so I did that one here. Max, you're doing a mod, that's correct?
So I'm playing the PC version, but I have modded it to make it. Well, one is I modded it to make it widescreen because it runs better on like modern hardware. But I also modded it to just kind of you get force powers a little earlier, and it makes it like the beginning of the game go by a little bit faster. And since I've replayed it a bunch of times, it was kind of a nice change of pace. Quick side note though, the movies I've had some trouble getting working just based on the way the resolution works.
Yeah.
So if anyone has some suggestions that are listeners for widescreen mods on how to get the movies working, please let me know. I've like tried swapping out the files to like higher resolution movies, and I just get crashes. So I've had to like watch them on YouTube as I'm going.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm playing it on PC.
And Nick, you're also doing PC, correct?
I'm doing PC. I'm doing vanilla PC. And once you said mod for widescreen, I'm like, ooh, maybe I gotta. But even on the PC version, so I've been trying to live stream it the whole time, and I keep running into these issues when the cut when the cutscenes play. Uh, because I have two monitors, both resolutions shift and change. The cutscene
Mm.
plays. The stream has no idea what to do with it, so it just does nothing. The scene ends. The resolution shifts back to a weird thing, and then it's back. It's like a weird, but it's a 2003 game on a PC port, so like I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
There are KOTOR widescreen mod. There's like a guide that I was following, and I got everything working except for the movies.
Mm.
I can send you that, but it's the community has done a really good job, as with a lot of these old games, of trying to kind of update it and keep it at least working with modern hardware. But maybe that's a good segue into the gameplay and how well it holds up.
Yeah, let's talk about the gameplay here because obviously, like at the start of this is a role-playing game. You pick your own character, you sort of have choices between how you want to start, whether you're a soldier, a scoundrel, or a scout. So basically, like the soldier, the smuggler, or like the Boy Scout is the way I would put it here. So I picked like a guy playing a light side game path. The canonical ending for the game is light side male character, so you can be male or female, light or dark. So I use one of Cassian Andor's aliases as my character name. So my guy's name is Variant Sky. He's a soldier. It's at the start of the game.
I think I also did a male soldier as well. An interestingly fun fact is that cannot well now it's not canonical, but previously canonically, uh, main character of this game is male. Main character of KOTOR 2 is female.
Yes.
Just an interesting way that they did that. Yeah, but you can choose your class, you choose your different attributes. I mean, it's D&D kind of style type character creation. They give you certain bonuses and things. So if you want to be someone who likes to fight with blades or fights with blasters, or you want to be able to hack into droids or security cameras, do you want to be good with when you eventually get them, like force powers, and then what type of force type user do you want to be?
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can do. There's different ways to solve problems in the game, and you have different ways. You can either do it yourself, or you could have a party member help you with the problems here. It's like as my security, I basically focus on basically like treating injury, being able to persuade once you get that ability, and the force persuasion, and sort of like a couple of like minor skills I work on here. But Mac, what character name did you go with?
I have this old gamer tag that I've always used. It's Maul Yoda. It's like Darth Maul and Yoda combined together because those are my two favorite characters growing up. So that's just what my name is in a lot of these games. But I also like playing the smooth talking character who gets to persuade their way out of situations.
Yeah.
And then I've tried to gear. I think I like ticked my strength up so I was good with blades in preparation for being a lightsaber combatant.
Yeah, and Nick has chosen to, for the sake of variety of the podcast, he's playing on the dark side, where he's making dark side choices. And what's your character name? What class do you start with?
So for character name, and I didn't realize how much of this game it's just straight up D&D. Like even like some of the feats that you can get, like there's one feat called Tough where you get like you get hit points based on every level that you go up. That's just like straight out of 5e. That's like literally a feat that you can do. Um so I in true D&D fashion, I rolled a D20 and whatever number that landed on, I pressed random that many times and that's the character name it came up with. So I actually can't even remember my character's last name. My first name is Niblin.
Yeah.
It's like Niblin something. I'd have to double check. And it's become uh the my Twitch chat has turned it into like a Pokemon essentially. So like Niblin will run into the room and it'll be like Niblin flip and it'll do like a power attack. It's kind of become a we've kind of turned him into a Pokemon. But yeah, no, I also went with the like the main fighter. What is it? Warrior? I forget what it's
Soldier.
Older.
soldier. I went with soldier, but I'm kind of like cherry picking my own skills because a good thing about this game, like where your character lacks, there's a party member that will like be good at something. So like
Yes.
I'm going with like a dual wielding charge in head first, like swing at everything. So that way, like when you get other characters that are better at like slicing or better characters that are better at like picking
Air.
up landmines or something, like you can customize your party to your needs. So you don't have to be the person that does everything. You can just focus on one thing and you will have party members that can do other stuff.
Yeah, I learned that this time for the game. Because like see who's good at the one thing and sort of like and match them out for one thing. A couple of character members, like one's really good at security, one's really good at like repairs. Like there's stuff that I can work on here in terms of that front here. And in terms of pure gameplay mechanics, as Nick has mentioned, it basically is a Dungeons and Dragons game in disguise where you are going through RPG elements. You're turn-based combat where there are dice rolls in the background. You click on it, and they roll the dice off screen for you and see how successful you are. You obviously get to, do stuff like that. How do you guys feel the turn-based combat holds up, Max?
So I'm gonna separate this into two schools of thought. If you like turn-based combat versus if you're more used to the like action RPGs that are more common these days. If you like action RPGs, you don't like turn-based combat, you will hate this game.
Yes.
If you like turn-based combat, I think it still holds up relatively well. I don't know if you guys have ever played Final Fantasy VI, but I would equate it the most with that game because it's turn-based combat, but it's not like you take a turn and then the action pauses and then the other side takes a turn. It's like you're queuing up your actions and they happen adjacently to each other. So like you'll do something, the other person do something, but you're queuing up your actions in real time. So it's like slightly faster paced turn based combat. Now, the one downside to that, and Nick, since you're playing on PC, you can either agree or disagree with me, is that the controls on PC are like pretty clunky. The game I think was initially made for the Xbox, and I think the controller still works the best for just the system that they set up. But like switching between all the different powers and things, like I like the combat, but the controls are a little iffy.
Yeah, it's definitely a little clunky. Um I find that actually so I love RPGs. I love PlayStation 1 era JRPGs. I mean, Final Fantasy 6 is Super Nintendo, but like so the idea of like you go in like I got into this nice groove of when there's harder enemies, like I hit pause, queue up my attacks, go to my next character, queue up their attacks, go to my next character, queue up their attacks, then press play again and just let it unfold and kind of adapt on the fly. Like I love that. I eat that up. But
Mm-hmm.
I could see why somebody coming to this game for the first time in 2025 with a mindset of how games are today, would play this and just be like, so I'm just gonna press a button and watch them swing a sword. Like that's it. Like it's but I love it. I think it hasn't held up well in terms of like just like the ease of it and it's very clunky and yeah, like The PC controls are fine. I thought it would be easier with PC because games like this tend to be. But yeah, you can clearly tell it was designed with a controller and ported after the fact, not vice versa. But it's not taking away enough for me to think it's like a problem. It's just you just got to adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's like I'm playing on the controller experience. I do have it, and it did design for Xbox first, but they sent it to PC, I think in '05. I think is when the first PC port was made. And like, I think the argument I will say to on behalf of the people who are going to come in and are not used to this is like, I think if for the remake, I think the argument you could make here is like, if the Cal Kestis Jedi games, I think, are in a lot of people's minds. There's like great Star Wars games now. I think like if you had the ability to kind of make it more action RPG for 20, if the remake ever happens, where you could learn the moves, like whether like the Niblin flip or the power move, like you could do it yourself instead of hitting the button. I think that would be wildly successful today with the story.
Yeah, and I mean like even like BioWare later on has developed games like if even if it like adapted more of like a Mass Effect kind of feel where like your powers like you hit your shoulder button and all your powers are listed nice and easy and you can select them, they have a cooldown. Like there's a way to modernize it for sure. So yeah, I don't know if it would I mean I guess you could do like a action RPG. I mean like you look at like a Final Fantasy VII remake and they completely reinvented it and everyone's happy with it. So you could do something like that.
Jedi Survivor kind of falls in that boat too, where you like sort of like picking up moves on the fly and learning them, and then like allocating how you want your Cal to improve.
I'll play the other side of that. I certainly I think you could port it over to an action RPG, like a Mass Effect style, Mass Effect One style, or like Fallout New Vegas is one of my all-time favorite games, and that was a really great action RPG. But I think there's a big appetite these days for turn-based strategy or turn-based role-playing games. You could take like the XCOM remakes. I think there was this other game like Expedition 33 that just came out. It's like a turn-based RPG. It's getting all sorts of rave reviews. So I think, and I think there's less of that these days than the action game. So I think if you were to do turn-based, you would definitely need to update the controls and the mechanics. But I don't think that you necessarily need to strip it out entirely and convert it all into real time. And I think it's still like would work super well.
Well,
But like the controls are definitely like this is a console game. This is made for console that's being ported over to PC, but without making the necessary alterations entirely.
I will say also, I think the thing that did not hold the best, like the mini games drove me nuts that you have to play at points here, whether it's the space battles where you're spinning like the thing around shooting at random things on your radar, or Pazak or the swoop racing. Pazak's the best of the three, but
You
I
don't like Pazak,
I said Pazak is the best of the three.
but do you like it?
It's fun. I like it less now than I did then.
That's
Oh,
not a yes. He doesn't.
yeah. I'm curious. So do you like Sabak or Pazak better?
I like Savak better.
Oh,
You like
this,
Pazak?
yeah, we this on this podcast we've talked a lot about Sabak. We wish there was like a Sabak like mobile game that we could play, like where Sabak stands on this podcast.
Yeah, this is more of a
I
Savak
don't
pod.
I don't know if I like it better or worse, but I think it's different and it's interesting because it's a little bit more like blackjack than kind of getting to zero.
Yes, pretty much. It's like it's basically Pazak for the people who have not played yet. It's like it's a mini game. You basically have to get to 20. You have four cards in your deck that they give you at random out of the 10 you have, and you can use them to sort of adjust your score here and there. And then like it's entirely like random like, what your opponent has. You have no idea what cards they have as face cards. And like some of the opponents have like insane skill levels and insane luck that like you have to basically be very careful what you're wagering.
Yeah, I think on the mini game front, they definitely are the thing that hasn't aged the most, but I do like the change of pace
Yeah.
because the action, like the combat mechanic, like it's very repetitive until you get to like higher skill levels. So it is nice, like as much as like the swoop bike racing isn't the best, I like to have like that change of pace there. And as far as like the shooting and space mechanic, that's the one thing that using a mouse actually feels a lot better on. It's much easier to aim with that, but it was still like not great.
And the swoop bike race people who are aware of this again came out 2003, a couple years after Phantom Menace. This is their answer to pod racing. Basically, this is basically their substitute.
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
just instead of racing against other people, you're like, I'm just going to race for this great time,
Yeah,
and
you're
then you have to get that down.
trying to beat the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other big mechanic here is that these obviously it's an RPG, but like they did a great job through dialogue trees and actions you can take on these side quests and main quests. But you can choose whether you're going to follow the light side, whether you're going to go dark side like Nick is doing, or if you want to be a quote unquote like gray Jedi, like pick and choose your spots where you want to like take a moral stand or like take the cheat to like sort of like advance your credits.
Yes.
A thing that I've learned, this game will let you get away with a lot before they consider it dark side. Like a lot of things that you can do, oh, and the opening bits. Well, I don't. We'll get to it, but when we get to like the breakdown of
They're
the plot
actually
and like the places, yeah, there's a lot of actions that I did, and I was like, so they're just okay with that. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah, desperate times, I guess. All right, so we'll get to the plot discussion here. So the story begins. You pick your character, pick your class. You wake up on this ship called the Endar Spire. You're in the middle of a war between the Jedi and the Sith. And the Sith are basically this powerful force that's taking over the Republic. You get waken up by your bunkmate Trask Olgo, who says, "Hey, we're on a ship. We're on a ship with this special Jedi called Bastila. She has a skill called battle meditation that could swing battles. And here we never met before because you work opposite shifts. We have to go save Bastila. This is basically your intro level of the game where you learn the controls and whatnot. And basically, the mission ends is that like you get off the ship on the escape pod with Cartho Nassi, who's the pilot, so who's one of your key party members later on. But Max, we have to take a second here and discuss our friend Trask here. Is your first ever party member. He dies before you get off the ship. This man has the patience of a saint for our amnesiac assing in this game. Ask him every question. The ship is being boarded by Sith. They're taking him down. He takes the time to answer your questions like perfectly, repeats it multiple times, waits for you to learn how to put on your clothes and arm yourself, and manages to, sacrifice himself when he runs into his dark Jedi later on. So Trask does a lot of good things here and gets like left in the dustbins of history.
Because I modded the game, you don't even get to talk to Trask. So that is how instrumental he is to the playthrough. Uh, but yeah, he is. He walks you through the tutorial, and then he sacrifices himself to save you, and they never mention him for the rest of the game ever again.
Nick, justice for Trask?
Well, I have a very interesting Trask theory that week five, put a note. I'm going to tell my Trask theory week five. Um, there's a lot of interesting fan theories about him, but yeah, I mean the Endar Spire, Trask, that whole opening just serves as a tutorial.
Yeah.
And just to give a little bit of context to people listening that might not have played the game or don't know, like, so the Sith in this game in this era, it's like an actual like there's like an army, it's almost like a separate body of government. It's almost like similar like separatists in this in that kind of context where like it's not just like one evil dude and his apprentice. It's like there's a whole army, and that's the first attack is introducing them.
Yeah, it's the
I
first,
think in
first
the I was gonna say in the EU, I think there's actually like a Sith species, and these people are like descendants or followers of the religion of that species. But yeah, they build up this like entire empire, and so even more so than like in the episode two of like the Clone Wars era, where you have the whole army of Jedi, you also have a whole army of Sith.
yeah.
Uh, and
Yes.
then I forget, do we learn a little bit about like the background of like how the Sith arose or like became an empire at that point, or like why the Republic is kind of weakened at this point, or does that happen after Taurus? I'm trying to remember.
Well, Karth gives you a little information on Taris, and then like Bastila, once you find her, gives you more. But like the bulk of it's going to come next week with Dantooine, where we get a lot of the background on the Revan and Malik of it all.
Okay, so then we can well, I guess part of the other thing is that there was like a big conflict between the Republic and the Mandalorians, and that weakens the Republic. I don't remember if this is one of the first like you actually see real live Mandalorians, like the conflict that's always alluded to in a lot of the movies and TV shows. But this is like this is right after that conflict happened, and so there are Mandalorians running around everywhere, or they're Mandalorians in the game with like armor and stuff. And you see them like fighting. Well, one of them you get as a companion, and you see them like fighting the Jedi and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we'll get to Canderous more in a little bit here. Go to Taris here. A quick story summary basically is that like you and Karth land on Taris. Bastila has gone missing. You have to find her. You realize that she crashed in the undercity of the planet. Taris basically ghetto Tatooine for the game, ghetto Coruscant for the game, where like you have the upper class city, you have the lower city, which is all the poor people. You have the undercity, which is basically like everybody who's cast out for crimes and banished for life, and their descendants are stuck there too. So you have to navigate all that to find Bastila, find out she's been basically captured one of the swoop gangs down there with the pod racing biker gangs. You have to you pick which one you side with. You go through the swoop race thing, get Bastila back, and you have to figure out a way to get off the planet, which involves you getting in bed with one of the mercenaries played by Candace Owens, one of the Mandalorians. You steal a ship, you get off the world as the planet blows up. That's the straight line version of it here, but there's a lot of color in the background of this Max on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think we should like talk about like the people we meet along the way because I think it's probably the most efficient way to do it here because you start with Karth. Karth has obviously got a tortured past. You slowly find out throughout the game that he's had a lot go wrong. He blames your character for a lot of it, even though you don't have nothing to do with it. So like you're trying to spend the games, you're trying to earn Karth's trust back as like, well, he is your trusty sidekick. He is a loyal soldier. He does have trust issues.
It's just funny. So because I'm doing the Sith playthrough, I'm intentionally choosing every like, how can I be the biggest dick to everybody? And you talking to Karth while trying to choose all of the evil dialogue options. It's just like, boy, is it not helping with his
You're putting
fear that like yeah. But the funny thing is because it's like a 2003 video game, like you're first released into this apartment complex before you start going around everywhere. I broke into every single apartment, robbed every single one of them, made Karth unlock every single door, and he's like, "We shouldn't be doing this. Like, this is bad." Next scene, he's shooting the person down for me. So you kind of gotta like remove that from it. But yeah, Karth is the first main person you meet, and then you kind of go to the cantina and you kind of see what life is like on the upper parts, and eventually to get down below, you need to steal some Sith armor, and you do that by going to a Sith party, and they all drink too much, and you steal their clothes. It's just like there's like a lot of cool missions like that where there isn't like one direct way to go about it. There's kind of like two or three different ways you can go, and you pick whichever one you want to do. And that's kind of this whole opening planet is kind of walking you through that, teaching you that there are multiple ways to do this. There's a lot of people you can talk to, and it kind of it's really just a big tutorial essentially.
it's a
That's
very big sort of way to sort of like get used to the mechanics. Okay, your choices have consequences, and there are different ways to solve the problem instead of just brute forcing it.
that's interesting that you're talking about the Sith uniforms as a way or as like a choice and consequence. Because the way that I got the Sith uniforms was there was this alien who was being harassed by the Sith for helping out one of the swoop gangs who's rebelling against the Sith, who are like dominating this planet. So I helped out the alien and I killed all the Sith and I got their uniforms as a result from him.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I in with the canteen, I was talking to some Sith girl, and then like I started hitting on her, and she was like, "Hey, come to this after party." And I was like, "Okay." And they all drink too much and pass out, and you just take one of the uniforms there.
Yeah, on my
So
license,
there's
I went through the same way Nick did. I got to the party and got my armor that way.
so there's multiple ways to go about this. As just in that little example, I didn't even realize that was another way in the game.
Yeah, that's the way I've always done here. So Karth, we have him. When you get to the lower levels, you meet Mission and Zalbar, who are a Twi'lek and a Wookiee, who have become fast friends on this planet here. Mission's brother is a piece of work. We'll get to him in a couple of weeks. And Mission is sort of like your like Snoop scoundrel, sort of like security expert breaking in here. Zaldar's your muscles repair guy. He's off Kashyyyk for reasons we'll find out later on in the game. So these two are sort of the best buds, although like in terms of my party preferences, they are not in the party for me too much.
I've actually been running with Mission a lot. She's pretty good with a vibroblade, which is the like sword in the that's not a lightsaber, and she's very handy with hacking into computers. and doors. I don't typically use Zalbar that much though, because he's like a kind of brute force character, and I sort of already have that with my main character.
Yeah, so Nick, anything on Mission and Zalbar that jumps out to you?
No, just I guess uh what this game kind of does, which is cool, it encourages having multiple people in your party. Depending on the two party members, just walking around doing missions, they'll have unique dialogue with each other on top of like Karth reveals his backstory in pieces, right? Like so, you know, he doesn't want to talk anymore. And then an hour later, you'll see Karth is a little uneasy and you talk to him more. So by having different party members, like if you have Zalbar and Mission together,
They'll banter, they'll
Mission
banter with,
like she what's that?
they banter with each other.
Yeah, and like she just talks about how bad he smells.
Yeah.
And like
Or like filming
like
him, yeah.
yeah, she like really gets on him about the way he smells, and like he reveals that like while he was a prisoner, he ate like a Gamorrean arm and then he ate it. Like, just like you can get a lot of funny stuff that way. As far as my party makeup, yeah, I think I liked having um at that point in the game when you get to like the sewers, I had Karth and Mission, but I actually took Mission's Vibroblade because you can upgrade it, and I wanted to dual wield. And I kind of had Karth and Mission kind of just standing back shooting while I ran in and hit
They
everything up.
meleeed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one we get here. Obviously, we about two-thirds of the way through Tyrus, you get Bastila back, and at that point, like she kind of sassy with you because like she thinks that you're just a random dude who just happened to get down there, and like then she hears you with Karth, goes back here. She's your first Jedi party member here, and you don't get to use her invisible meditation in the game, but like she's your first lightsaber wielding character, and like it turned out like she's got like issues that you're gonna learn about throughout the game.
There's one other really great thing that having Bastila helps, which is that she has force speed, and that makes actually progressing through these areas much, much faster because you can actually run a lot faster. But yeah, it's interesting, especially like playing this game, then going back to like the Clone Wars series and some of the later movies where or the prequels where they're addressing like the Jedi being kind of arrogant and snooty, and you get a lot of that from Bastila early on. That she's like, on the one hand, she's supposed to be this like super experienced, battle tested Jedi. By the other hand, she's actually like a Padawan. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't actually have a lot, but she holds herself as so much like higher and mightier than everyone else. And you kind of see echoes of the like what the Jedi Order became in at least the early version of her.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, Vassal, I think you get a lot of mileage of Vasil's backstory too as the game goes on.
Yeah, one of the things that does happen, it happens a couple of times, is you get these visions of Bastila fighting, and that's kind of a launching point for Bastila to realize like you as the player character, there's a little bit more going on to you because like that's a force sensitive trait, and she's like maybe when we get off of Taris, we can try to explore that a little bit, which is where we eventually get it off to. But when when you save Bastila because she eventually just kind of breaks herself free.
She's such a dick to you.
Yeah, she's so mean to you, and I every time she's like, yeah, and after I broke free, I like make it a point to be like, after I saved you. Like I keep putting that in after every single time. She's like, you didn't really save me, and he's like, I'm the one that saved you. Like that's how like I'm role playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very she's very yeah, she's just very arrogant, very like you can tell like maybe her training's not complete or something at this point. There's more to her than just like I'm a Jedi and everybody should look up to me. Like she's got some depth to her.
Yeah, so after you get Vassal back, you get this you had run into Candace earlier in the game, Candace Ordo, like he's one of the enforcers for the local crime syndicate, which is called the Exchange, and he runs you at the cantina and says, "Hey, I have a mission for you here. Like, I want to get off world. My boss Davik has a ship. We have to get the launch code so we don't get nuked out of the sky by the Sith as soon as we try and fly this thing. So go like buy this droid that I set special over Davik. Because here comes your substitute like R2D2 for this game is T3M4. You break into the Sith base and steal the code, which is a fun mission that you go through on Taris. Like you guys, this is one of these areas you wait forever to access. Once you get in, you just basically beat the shit out of a bunch of Sith soldiers.
one quick thing on Basila, and then yes, I think it's worth mentioning. Basila is voiced by Jennifer Hale, who's probably like one of the most acclaimed video game voice actors of all time. I think she also voices Fem Shep in the Mass Effect trilogy.
Yep.
She's big, and she turns in a great performance here. But yeah, that is a very fun mission. T3 M4 is unfortunately for him, my second favorite droid of the game, and we'll get to the favorite one in a few
Next,
weeks.
next week we're
Uh,
gonna.
but he, he's like a he has like a little bit of like the quirk and the charm. Not as iconic as R2D2, but solid. Canderous is, I think you learn a lot more about his backstory as well. And he is a real live Mandalorian. He fought in the esteemed Mandalorian Wars, and he's more than like the Jango Fetts or Boba Fetts who are kind of like the big time descendants. Like he's a Mandalorian in his prime.
Yeah.
That's just I don't know. That's like kind of an interesting plot point.
Yeah, Nick, the Canderous thing is fun because like you also see as the side characters progress, you see like they are naturally like either like light side, dark side, or T3 is neutral because he's just made when you get him. But like Canderous is your first character in your party who like leans more towards the dark side of it all.
Yeah, and it's also like, people who are listening that haven't played this or know anything. He's a Mandalorian, but there's no armor. Like that
Oh
it's
yeah,
he's just a dude because like at this point it's a planet full of people. It's not just like, people I think people today think Mandalorians, especially Mandalorian and Grogu getting so big and you just assume it's the armor all the time. Um but yeah, he's by the time I get to Canderous and get off world, which when we get into the side quest part, we'll talk about the decisions we made and we did. My character was so dark side that like my facial features started changing. Like my
mm,
background was all red. The character model was like standing like intimidating. And I chose the what I call the 90s butt rock singer.
Yeah.
The one that has the little soul patch and the shaved head. By the time I left it, he has like a handlebar mustache and like a scar going down his face. Like they changed the physical features to be like clearly this is an evil guy. And once I saw Candace and he was already like had the red evil background, I was like, this is my guy. He's gonna be a dick with me.
Yeah, like we're gonna ride or die on the dark side. And we'll talk about more stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we get this in here. We also there's you can straight line this one in a couple hours you want to, but there's also a lot of interesting side quests on Taris you can deal with here. So I'll give you each the floor here. Favorite side quest or non-playable character. And Max, I did note this as the game goes on here. This character is 2003. Like aside from your party members and the main villains, like it's the same like 5 or 6 character models for all the NPCs throughout the game.
yeah. Although to be fair, that's I mean you get a lot of the same voice actors, character models, and even more modern RPGs.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we did not touch on that's important is the main villain of the game, who is Darth Malik, because the way that the terrorist planet ends is that Darth Malik is trying to prevent Bastila from escaping from the planet, and he is basically like, let's just go blow up the whole planet. I don't care if they're innocent civilians. I don't care if they're Sith troopers. I'm just going to destroy it. So he has his fleet destroy the entire planet. And I kind of forgot how like ruthless and intimidating Darth Malik is. Like I remember that Terrace got destroyed, but he Darth Malik has a very cool design. He's missing his like bottom jaw, so he has like kind of a robotic voice like Darth Vader. He's like all bald with these like lines in his head. He has this big intimidating cape, just like very cool looking, intimidating, powerful character, very ruthless in his goals. So they set up him as a good villain for the game. I don't know if you guys felt similarly.
Yeah, he comes on. He's not very active in the beginning of the game. He's just a name you hear. When you see him though, he is terrifying.
Yeah, his ship is pretty intimidating too. It's like one of the few cutscenes that you get. You just see the ship just kind of looming over the thing. And then just to talk on the villains, I mean, we brought up Revan before. At the start of this game, Revan's been defeated and Malik is now in charge. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like the setup.
That's one of the things you learn when
Um,
you pick up Bastila is basically that like Revan and Malik were these warriors were these two Jedi who went off to help the Republic fight against the Mandalorians. Mandalorians decided they wanted to fight a glorious war. Jedi Council said no. They win the war, and then they go off into unknown space for some reason. They come back with a Sith army, and that they are the two leaders of the Sith. And then at some point, like the Jedi stage a coup and attack Revan. And while he is on his own ship, Mal's on a separate ship, attacks Revan's ship, defeats Revan, and usurps the Empire. Basically, he's now the leader.
The Jedi not wanting to get involved in a war. How interesting.
Yeah, something we see. That's something that comes a common occurrence over the course of time.
Yeah.
Right, back to
Um,
the side quest real quick. Max, your favorite side quest?
I think the Rakghoul serum, like curing that, is the most pure good and evil choice. I probably from a fun in terms of gameplay perspective, I enjoyed the dueling ring. I was playing on difficults for a little bit, and even starting as a Jedi, some of the later fights are really, really challenging. Like I had a hard time beating Marl, who's like the veteran dueling champion, and it took me a bunch of tries to beat Bendak Starkiller also. And that is like having force powers at the beginning of the game, leveling those up, having a lightsaber, like that was still pretty tough. So that was fun.
Yeah, the dueling ring is fun. You basically learn fight mechanics that way. It's another mini game-ish quest where you fight your way to the top of the death charts here. And the Rakghoul serum, Nick, is a fun dilemma because like you meet them basically the doctor of the planet on the upper levels is there's disease in the Undercity where like people bite you, you turn into like mindless Rakghouls. And like if I could get the serum that Sith stole from me, like I could mass produce it and have it sort of be a thing that helps everybody out. Whereas like his assistant is working for the criminal exchange says, hey, give it to my boss, you'll get paid a ton of money. And considering you're a dark side player, I know exactly what you did.
Oh yeah. So before I did that, I broke into his room where he has like the Republican soldiers and like back to tanks, extorted him for money to not rat him out, and then I went down, got the Rakul serum. I like brought it up to him just to wave it in his face that I have it, and then I went and sold it to was it Davik?
I was
Um,
The Hut, Zax, yeah, who
yeah,
was working with
Zax, yeah,
that.
yeah, four Davik, yeah. And let me tell you, being Sith, I am loaded. I am flushed with credits. I will be set for the rest of my life because everything that you do as a dark side gives you so much money. But yeah, like I didn't get any satisfaction of healing anybody with the Rakghoul serum. I just gave it up right away.
Yeah, I think that one's a fun debate here. And what do you think of the Undercity storyline, Mac? That's a fun storyline in terms of like, and canonically, the Undercity people, like you basically find out there's a secret, like I would describe it as like the Paradise City somewhere, like that you have to go find, and like you give them the journals to these village elder. He figures out how to get there. They leave. Canonically, they're the only ones who survived the terrorist massacre because they are on their way to the undersea in the sewers out of the chaos of the buildings being bombed.
That's my recollection too, that the lower city and upper city both get destroyed by Malik's fleet, but the undercity people who are like the poorest, most impoverished people living underneath Taurus, they're the only ones who survive, which is a kind of nice twist of irony. Taurus, as you said earlier, like it's exactly like Coruscant, so it's like this planet sprawling wide city, but there's like some it's never really disclosed, but it's like some like paradise like location where there's water and food and it's just they have to venture out of the city. So uh I guess it's just like a kind of a nice nice thing. Like the uppity nobles get destroyed and like the very humble poor people survive.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Not
just
in my playthrough. I made sure they all died. Because if the cutscene that you get if you choose to not give them the promised land notes, you give it to that Weasley guy. Because he's like, I need to keep selling money to these people, so give it to me instead. And you get like a 5 minute speech from the old man about how we're terrible, how this is awful, we're a horrible person. We've doomed everybody, and I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, that's fine.
it's like I'm moving on in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think in terms of the other thing side quest here, so like you on the lower levels, you get to partake in bounties. So like you can, if you want, like if you're a light side user, you can go through these bounties and sort of like con your way to getting the credits by like not killing them off, basically. And the dark side ones, like you can just like murder but get all the credits, like Nick I'm sure did.
Oh, so it's funny because I made it a point to break into every single apartment. There were some bounties that I just got just anyway
Yeah,
before I even knew they were bounties. Like I started turning in the bounty and I was like, oh, I killed this person. Oh, I did this already, So it gave me a little bit of a head start.
free money. The only dark side points I earned throughout the whole thing was fighting this death match with Bad Max Starkiller.
I think that's right too. I will say also, like, even though I'm playing as a light side character, I always break into everybody's houses because I like to just loot everything. Like I have like the Bethesda game mentality, so I'm just like lock pick loot.
Well, that's what I was saying before. I'm like, when you break into these apartments, the people in the apartments, they're like, please don't hurt us, take whatever you want. And I'm like, surely this is a dark side thing. But no, you can just rob everybody blind.
All
But
right.
some of them you break into, it's like a bounty or someone hiding out, and there's one character in the upper city who she's hiding out from Davik. She has like a bounty put on her because she was being assaulted by one of the characters and she defended herself. So you can either turn her in, kill her, or you can save her and get the bounty removed if you're going with the light side.
Yeah, that's what Varian did.
Was that his name? And like the lower city cantina, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Varian's my guy. I said like Zax is the one in the lower city who runs the bounty office.
Mm.
Yes.
All right, so I think that's a good place to leave this week here. So fun week on the KOTOR stuff here. Like Taras is sort of like I will say as a planet, there are some good missions here. Like obviously, I think the highlight is like when you're breaking into bases, whether it's the Sith base, whichever biker gang you side with, you're breaking into the other base, and going through Davik's mansion is fun.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and then you get like just one other thing too. If you have like the droid with you, um, and you break into all the places, you get like there's a little bit of a computer hacking thing that we like very, very quickly. Like you can access the camera, you can go to different control pads, and you can like use that to your benefit. You can like get droids to help you. You can destroy terminals and take out people that way. So that's just like another mechanic you can do within the game.
Like if you played Cyberpunk, it's like is it splicing was the term? But yeah,
Yeah, they call it
like that
slicing in this game.
slight they call it slicing in the game. I was trying to think of what they call it in Cyberpunk, but it's that same principle for those unfamiliar.
Yep. So that's what's going on there. And we next week we were going to go to Dantooine, where you leave at First Flight because Basil wants you to go see the Jedi Order, talk about these visions you've been having. And we're going to start seeing. We have there's a little spoiler alert for the games that like, you end up on a quest where you have to go visit 4 different planets, and we're visit the first one, which is Tatooine, where we're going to meet Max's favorite droid next week.
Can't wait.
All right, so that's coming next week to remind everybody here, and we'll talk a little bit the Ebon Hawk next week as well. That's your ship you steal, which is basically your Millennium Falcon for that era, and we get to have fun on there next week. Well, thank you guys for coming on here as always. Nick, if you want to follow you on the Twitch, how can I do that?
Yeah, so go to twitch.tv/the recovery room. I'm live streaming my entire KOTOR playthrough. So if anybody's listening to this wants to watch along, that's where you can go and find that.
Yep, and Max, people want to follow us on social media, they'll be able to do that at Sky Guys Podcast on all social media platforms. So you can check that out there. And thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yep. See you guys next week.
Yep. And we also follow me on social media, M Phillips 331. It's MPHILIPS 331. Visit over on the Just End the Suffering podcast. We're gonna keep an eye on our US Open Golf episode this week. We're gonna keep an eye on the Yankees this week. We're gonna get some Yankee talk going on there as well. Season's well underway. Be back next week for Dantooine and Tatooine. Until then, may the force be with you.